From the most trusted names in local news, KDPG Sunday Edition.
Good morning and welcome to the KDPG Sunday Edition. I'm Stacy Smith. For Pittsburgh's technology sector, it is a time of transformation and challenge. Pittsburgh is now an important center for robotics, self-driving cars, artificial intelligence, and biomedical firms. The Pennsylvania Center for Workforce Information and Analysis reported about a year ago that there were 41% more jobs in research and development in the Pittsburgh area than in iron and steel production. But obstacles also remain. Pittsburgh made the semifinals to attract Amazon for an HQ2 headquarters. The award went to Queens, Long Island City, New York, and to an area of Virginia close to Washington, D.C. About a week ago, though, after backlash from some political leaders and community activists, Amazon pulled out of New York. David Begnaud has more on what happened.
There wasn't a shred of dialogue. Out of nowhere, they just took their ball and went home.
New York City's Mayor Bill de Blasio says a senior Amazon executive broke the news to him over the phone. The company would not reconsider its decision to ditch plans for a roughly $2.5 billion New York City headquarters.
And all we asked was that they be a good neighbor and be part of the community, and clearly they weren't ready to do that.
Demonstrators who for months raised concerns about the project celebrated near the site where Amazon planned to build.
We are reclaiming our economy and our democracy.
Supporters applauded the deal's 25,000 expected jobs, workforce training, and nearly $30 billion in estimated revenue over 25 years. Critics, however, worried about the rising housing costs and Amazon's opposition to labor groups and over $3 billion in tax breaks. Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez represents the district that borders the proposed site.
We could hire out more teachers, we can fix our subways, we can...
Ocasio-Cortez and other political leaders, including President Trump, have criticized Amazon for not paying enough in taxes. This year, the company will reportedly pay $0 in federal taxes on more than $11 billion in profits. In a statement, Amazon blamed politicians who will not work with us to build the type of relationships that are required to go forward with the project. Some local business owners, like Frank Raphael, say the company offered to work with the community.
They were coming to meetings, they were speaking, and they really were trying to do the right thing.
This morning on the KDPG Sunday Edition, what is being done to grow Pittsburgh's technology community? Audrey Russo is President and Chief Executive Officer of the Pittsburgh Technology Council, and Brian Kennedy is the Senior Vice President of Operations and Government Affairs for the Council. We welcome them both to the program, and for the first time, I am joined by Keith Burris, the Executive Editor of the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. Congratulations on your new position at the Post-Gazette. Thanks. Good to have you here with us, and good to have you with us this morning as well. Let's just follow up on the Amazon thing. Did it come as a surprise to you, Audrey, that Amazon pulled out of New York?
A little bit. I think it definitely did a little bit. You know, there was so much fanfare and so much energy being put into developing strategies for these cities to attract Amazon, and it looked like it was a good fit. It looked like there were a lot of opportunities for the city. The talent, the kind of talent that sits in New York City is pretty strong, particularly in innovation and tech.
Did you, when all of this was going on and Pittsburgh made the cut, so to speak, did you in your heart of hearts believe that we would get Amazon?
In my heart of hearts?
Yes.
I thought we had a good chance, okay? I think we have so much to offer. Pittsburgh is not a city that is going to see sort of a hockey stick kind of incline. Pittsburgh is a place where the kind of technology and the kind of innovation that's here are really important to companies like Amazon.
From your perspective, Brian, with what Audrey's just talking about here, about what we have to offer.
Well, as we looked at the Amazon proposal, a couple of things come to mind. First and foremost, we're still convinced Amazon is going to, they're already here in Pittsburgh, of course, with a great artificial intelligence center on Pittsburgh's south side. We don't see a future where Amazon doesn't have 500 to 1,000 people working on artificial intelligence in Pittsburgh. So we're convinced they're still coming. It may not be 50,000 jobs, but we believe they're going to be here.
How many jobs are here right now from Amazon?
Well, they predict the commitment, they have about 125, and they've made a commitment to double that over a short period of time.
250.
But that's a significant doubling up in terms of their commitment here.
But you're saying it's going to go higher than that.
We think that companies like Amazon will see it as an imperative to be in Pittsburgh. If you look at what's already happened here in town, we have Facebook, which is just taken out, I think, 100,000 square foot in the Lawrenceville area. We have Google that has somewhere near 1,000 employees, Uber with similar number of people. Who am I forgetting? Apple. And really importantly, what happened in New York, there were a couple concerns about what happened in New York. People were mad about 50,000 people disrupting a neighborhood. They were also mad about $3 billion in tax giveaways. If you look at the Pittsburgh story, we have attracted Apple and Amazon and Facebook and Google and Uber and Aurora and Argo and these great companies without spending any economic development incentives on those companies directly, without giving away any potential tax revenue. We have a product that we don't have to go to the bid markets with. We have something that people need, which is talent and technology. So we're in a special place, and for that reason, we're convinced that Amazon will definitely come to Pittsburgh and grow here, just not 50,000 people.
And there's some pluses to being on that list, right, Brian, that just being known as one of the places Amazon considered.
So both of you understand media, and we talk about this all the time, Audrey and I. If we had put together a campaign to try to get all the national media outlets and all the tech media outlets to name Pittsburgh as one of the top 5 to 10 places where a new corporate headquarters like Amazon was going to get named, first of all, we would have had to spend millions of dollars on PR experts, and second, it would have been a very hard sell to media outlets around the world. But what Amazon did was put us on those lists. And in fact, it didn't seem odd at all to see Pittsburgh in the top 5 or top 10, and a lot of pundits' top guesses. So what Amazon did for Pittsburgh will pay dividends years down the road, and eventually we think they'll be here.
All right, so I want to go back to a couple of good points you brought up here. You indicate that it's a commitment for 250 workers total from Amazon. You believe it's going to go higher than that, but you don't necessarily have a commitment from Amazon to go higher than that.
But that's okay. I mean, that's essentially what happened with Google. Google started 12 years ago with 10 people in their office. And they were coming out of Carnegie Mellon. They understood what the research was proliferating inside of Carnegie Mellon, and they just slowly but steadily continued to gain traction here. And that, to me, is just a much more important strategy than it is to just all of a sudden say that we're going to bring 25,000 jobs to a region that is still wrestling with infrastructure, wrestling with ground transportation, making sure that we get direct flights around the world. That kind of steady tick upwards is something that makes this place even more magical. That's the same thing that happened with Facebook. You could go on and give more and more. When Uber came here, they didn't all of a sudden have this, this number of people. They started with like 30 or 40 people. They started to get their tentacles deep. They started to make these relationships, and they started to attract talent from all over the world to come work in a place where nowhere else can you do the kind of work that Uber's doing except in Pittsburgh.
All right, now, I find it interesting in that you're saying we're attracting talent to come in,
yes.
And you're also saying that we have something here which is the talent base.
Right.
Is it a good mixture right now? Because we've also heard that with the talent base that we've had, a lot of times it's leaving, it's going else, they're being hired away to Silicon Valley or whatever it might be, Boston or Austin.
It's not actually that simple. I mean, you really have to understand that when people come to Carnegie Mellon, they come from all over the world. They come from all over the world. And so that means they're citizens of the world. And that means they're going to get the kind of offers and opportunities of a global citizen. And their skill set is very high. So, for us to think that we are going to retain all these people in this region is a little naive. And you can't really burden the universities with that kind of responsibility. The whole world needs this talent. This isn't just Pittsburgh. If you go anywhere around the world, like Brian and I travel everywhere, everyone is looking for this talent. The great thing about Pittsburgh is that when people find their homes in many of these companies, they stay. They stay for longer periods of time. And that's also a little piece of magic that people don't understand. Because if you're sitting in Silicon Valley, you're sitting in New York, you're sitting in Boston, people move their car in a parking lot. And they go to another job and they just move their car to somewhere else. And so there's a constant kind of movement that creates not the kind of stability, and particularly the kind of stability when you're building product and when you're doing research and development.
Could you both talk about what makes us special? What's the special attraction of Pittsburgh? Is it stability primarily, or are there other factors?
Listen, there's a myriad of factors, and Brian and I, we're constantly trying to understand all these variables, and so are other people in the city trying to wrestle with this as well. We're not alone in this journey. Some of the variables that are very important are that people have a tethering to Pittsburgh. If they went to school here, if they have family here, and they're getting ready to settle down or they're getting ready to raise their kids, we can hook them here. There was a joke at Google when they first started. I said, how come all of you people came here? And they raised up their wedding band finger and said, we had a spouse here. We want to raise our kids. The schools are great that are in Allegheny County and beyond.
We have a secret sauce here in Pittsburgh too. So we can, and people from Pittsburgh will understand this, right? If you live here, this is home, right? You're not looking, how can I go somewhere else? And the tech industry learned that the hard way, right? So a lot of those companies came in here and set up shops, hoping to source talent in Pittsburgh and then send them off to their other offices. And we can tell at least 3 or 4 stories where they try to recruit one, really important person to leave Pittsburgh and head out to the Silicon Valley. And in multiple cases, those people said, I'm just not leaving. If you want me, you have to build here. And that's an example where one person can literally be the reason why another 1,000 people get employed right here in Pittsburgh, because companies build around them.
And it's not just cost of housing, it's the feeling of the
city. You can't
city.
sell that. You can't, yes, it's great that the cost of housing, is so much, less than some of these other cities. We get that, and that's important. But that's not what seals the deal. That's not what seals the deal. The city's working on that. We are, we're a process. It's a journey. This isn't an overnight transformation. We're not sitting like in Seattle that's got cranes everywhere. But if you go to Lawrenceville, you go to East Liberty, if I miss a few days, there's a lot of buildings that are cropping up. So we're pretty excited by that kind of transformation and that kind of steadiness. The other thing is you got to look at our topography. Our topography confines us in some ways in terms of how we're going to grow, and everyone wants to be near the talent. You've got 5 great universities in a row on Fifth Avenue, and they're all producing different kinds of talent, and they're all doing well in terms of their strategies around universities, whereas many other universities that are further out from the urban core are struggling in terms of their attention, their retention and attraction. So we're sitting in a really sit in a great space. For the University of Pittsburgh has an incredible amount of research dollars that comes from Washington, D.C. And people are working on almost every kind of problem that's in biohealth and biotech and in life sciences. What's the next explosion for us is that those companies becoming material companies and commercializing their technology.
We'd like to delve into that when we continue on the KDPG Sunday edition.